Hey there, thanks for watching. My name is Tara Harvey, and I'm the founder of True North Intercultural, which helps faculty and staff in higher education foster students' intercultural learning. And I want to talk to you today about the Intercultural Development Inventory, or IDI. So this is one of the most commonly used assessment tools for assessing and developing intercultural competence. And I use it a lot in my programs with faculty and staff. In fact, I'm right now in the process of doing one-on-one debriefs with all of the faculty and staff who are in my Facilitating Intercultural Learning program, which is a professional development program that helps faculty and staff develop their own intercultural competence and then learn how to facilitate students' intercultural learning. And so I've been getting a lot of questions from the folks on those calls as well as others all of the time about, why do you use the Intercultural Development Inventory? Why do you prefer it? What's it good for? What are the pros? What are the cons? So I wanted to come on and do a short video to address some of those questions. And if you have any more questions about it, please feel free to ask them in the comments section and I can do some more follow-up. So first of all, the IDI, which stands for Intercultural Development Inventory, is an online assessment, 50 questions, Likert scale. It's available in many different languages, so people can actually complete the IDI in, I don't know how many languages, but at least 20 or so, I think. And it's one of the most widely used, so there's a lot of research, validity. I'm not going to go into all of that. You can find that on the IDI website. But it assesses the complexity with which we experience cultural differences. So it's not looking at, are you as a human being good at something or bad at something? It's a developmental scale of the complexity with which we experience cultural difference, and it helps identify where you are on that developmental continuum. And based on that information, you then know what your strengths are, but also where you're challenged and what specifically you can and should focus on if you want to develop your intercultural competence. So it is my assessment of choice, what I use in particular with faculty and staff. I use it a lot with students as well and recommend it. But in particular, I like to use it with faculty and staff because of the developmental nature and because I don't use it just as an assessment to say this is your level of intercultural competence, but also as a tool, because the IDI helps you identify what you can work on, and it also gives you something called an individual intercultural development plan that's tailored to your results. So it's very specific, kind of a self-guided workbook that you can then use to work on your intercultural development. So I use the IDI in tandem with a lot of my intercultural training programs so that faculty and staff can really identify what their challenges are and what specifically they need to focus on. Because just saying, I want to develop my intercultural competence is kind of vague and wishy-washy and doesn't really give you a plan or a focus for what you need to do in order to do that. So I really like it for that reason. Some of the drawbacks are that it's kind of resource intensive. So in order to use the IDI, you have to be a qualified administrator. That means you have to attend a qualifying seminar with IDI LLC. And I should say, I am in no way affiliated with IDI. I'm not trying to promote them for any particular reason. I just use it and like it. I'm a qualified administrator, meaning I've gone through that training. Let's see, I think it was 2008. So I've been a qualified administrator for more than 12 years and have been using it quite extensively for the majority of that time with students and faculty and staff in higher education. But it's resource intensive, not so much because of the price of the assessment. I think that's probably comparable to other assessments, but because in order to get your individual results, you actually have to have a one-on-one conversation with a qualified administrator like me or someone else who has gone through the training to use the IDI. And so it's time intensive. And also if you're using a consultant or someone from outside of your institution, obviously you're paying for that time. And so you can't get your individual results without having that one-on-one debrief. Now, you can do group debriefs as well, but when a qualified administrator does a group debrief, they're not telling you what your scores are individually. They're telling you the averages of the group, the distribution maybe, and kind of the strengths and challenges that the group faces as a whole. So that's a limitation, particularly when using it with students. But I think it's very, very important when working with faculty and staff and helping them develop their intercultural competence, and then think about how to help students develop their intercultural competence, that they really have this self-knowledge of where they fall along the continuum and what they can do to develop their intercultural competence. And then I always take it a step further with faculty and staff and help them think about, what if your students are at a different place developmentally on this continuum? What specifically would they need? Because we have to tailor our teaching, our facilitation, our approach to our students to meet them where they are developmentally, to meet them where they're at and give them what they need to help them learn and grow. And that is not the same for all students. And a big piece of the puzzle is looking at where they are on their own intercultural development scale. A couple of things that come up oftentimes when people ask me about the IDI is, like I said, you have to go to a qualifying seminar in order to use the IDI. But a lot of people kind of equate that seminar with intercultural training. They think, oh, you go to the IDI qualifying seminar and then you know how to facilitate intercultural learning. That is not the case. You go to an IDI qualifying seminar and you know how to use the tool. And even using the tool to do it well takes a lot of practice. But I think it's really important that anyone who's going to be using the IDI have quite a bit of intercultural training themselves before they are using it. In fact, I've been brought into schools where they trained up people to use the IDI and then realized, oh, but they don't have the frameworks, they don't have the language, haven't worked on their own intercultural development sufficiently in order to use this, and so we need to provide intercultural training. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that the IDI qualifying seminar is not intercultural training itself. It is training to use this particular instrument. So I think those are kind of the key pros and cons and an overview of the IDI and why I like it and why I use it and why I recommend using it in particular with faculty and staff in higher education. But I'd love to know if you have any other questions specifically about the IDI, pros and cons of using it in higher education, or anything else. So feel free to drop your questions or comments in the section below, and I'll do a follow-up video if needed. Thanks so much.